Melton, Rowe, Bagley, Harding, Johnson. Mr. President.
She's ran. These two go there to make sure. Unless they're here. Ron and Lori, and they saw Joe there.
It's a good place for it.
Yeah, whatever passes.
For the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. But a month ago in a day, America lost a most unique individual in the name of James Lane Buckley. Many of you may not know the name, but might guess that he was related to the more known William F. Buckley, and he was his brother. But Jim Buckley was the most distinguished person in his own right, and that he served in the senior level positions of all branches of the federal government, legislative, executive, and judicial. He was a senator from New York. He served President Reagan in numerous roles, including Undersecretary of State for Security Affairs, and finally served from the federal bench as the judge for the United States Court of Appeals for District of Columbia Circuit. Mr. Buckley is but one of a very few that has served our country in these senior capacities of all three branches of government. In 2010, he published a book titled Freedom at Risk. Albeit released some 13 years ago, his writings are still relevant and applicable today. An example of this is reflected in his quoting of Edward Gibbon's description of democracy and its demise in ancient Athens. Gibbons wrote, and I quote, "In the end, more than they wanted freedom, they wanted security. They wanted a comfortable life, and they lost it all: security, comfort, and freedom. When the Athenians finally wanted not to give to society, but from society to give to them, when the freedom they wished for was the freedom from responsibility, then Athens ceased to be free and was never free again." Buckley summarized that his hope is that, quote, "This epitaph will never be read over the American public." May be more appropriate with today's proceedings, as we will witness the swearing in of Ron Hugg as the newest member of Omaha City Council, is a quote in part Buckley issued after his failed bid for re-election to the U.S. Senate in 1976. And he stated, I quote, "I believe that our commitment to the proposition that all men are created equal is a commitment to the equal dignity and equal rights of each American as an individual, and not as a member of one sex or the other, or of one category or another." Mr. Hugg was selected by this body to serve the remaining term of Vinnie Palermo, the rightly ousted District 4 City Council member. We have closed that unfortunate but unforgettable chapter that left the citizens of District 4 without representation for 5+ months. But today we begin a new chapter with new leadership, new energy, and a new direction from Mr. Hugg. I understand and I've heard the voices of those not pleased with this election. Like any election, or in this case by appointment by the city council dictated by the city charter, there is but, let me start that again. I understand and I've heard the voices of those not pleased with this selection. Like any election, or in this case, an appointment by the city council dictated by the city charter, there is one that will serve, and there are those who will not have been successful in their pursuit. Mr. Hugg went through the process and was eventually the one selected by this body to represent District 4, a very diverse and vibrant area of our city. Initially, he was not the first choice of the majority of this council. In fact, he did not receive any votes on the first ballot. Eventually, he earned the unanimous consent of the city council on the third vote. It is understandable that supporters of those not selected, the other 4 candidates, may be disappointed with the results, but it's time to move on. In my mind, it's imperative that we find the shared values and goals of the new representative and the community to work together for betterment of District 4 and all of Omaha. I know Mr. Hug will work hard on behalf of all in District 4 and Omaha, and he should heed Mr. Buckley's words. He will represent all with, quote, equal dignity and equal rights, regardless of one category or another. We are all but individuals, unique in our own ways, but with a charge to serve all. All boxes cannot be checked by one individual, but that individual must be fair in their approach. I know Mr. Hug feels this way. I wish him well, and I pray that District 4 and all of Omaha affords him the opportunity to represent them all of them.
Madam Clerk.
An affidavit of publication is on file for the pre-council and city council meeting, and a current copy of the Open Meeting Act is posted in a white binder on the east wall of legislative chambers.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Omaha City Council. We appreciate having you here today to speak to our many agenda items. We do have one presentation today before we start our formal meeting. As we get started, I would encourage you to turn your cell phones off, or at least to vibrate, and I'll welcome Sean Kelly down to the podium. I have the honor today of reading a City Council proclamation on behalf of Mike Kelly, who passed away recently, and Sean is here to represent the family, and we appreciate him doing that. After I speak, discuss the proclamation, we'll have council members have the opportunity to offer any personal reflections they may have, and then you as well, Sean. So
Okay.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
The City Council proclamation reads, whereas Mike Kelly was born on December 21st, 1946, to Thomas P. Kelly and Maxine Clausen Kelly, attended Christ the King School, Creighton Prep, and Creighton University, where he was a member of the men's varsity golf teams. And whereas Mike Kelly graduated from Creighton University Law School in 1972 and became a second-generation Kelly lawyer, practicing with his father and focusing on government relations and lobbying. And whereas Mike Kelly helped shape the civic and political landscape of Nebraska, governing on the Douglas County Board from 1981 to 1988, being elected to the countywide seat in 1984, and serving as board chairman. And whereas Mike Kelly served as board chairman of the Douglas County Board and oversaw such issues as the creation of the county lottery, consideration of a minor league hockey team, the future of the field club property, a 350-bed addition to the overcrowded County Corrections Center, and implementation of the county's work release program. And whereas Mike Kelly, as a commissioner, also had a hand in the development of the future ConAgra campus, represented a variety of interests as a lobbyist before the Nebraska legislature, and frequently appeared before the legislature and boards such as the Omaha City Council and the Nebraska Liquor Control Commission. And whereas in 1977, Mike Kelly founded the original Clancy's Pub with his father at 72nd and Pacific Streets, a must stop on St. Patrick's Day, was the owner of Zesto on 13th Street next to Rosenblatt Stadium, and opened Zesto and Blatt Beer and Table at 12th and Mike Fahey Streets when the College World Series moved to the North Omaha Stadium. And whereas Mike Kelly was a loving husband, father, and grandfather, always quick with a quip, and lived by the mantra, to laugh is to live, don't take yourself too seriously. Now therefore, we, the City Council of the City of Omaha, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, September 19th, 2023, as Michael August Kelly Day in the City of Omaha. We thank you for sharing your dad with us. He was truly a special individual. He was one of those guys you always thought would be around forever, and I think your epitaph was right on the mark when you called him old school. We loved having him around. We'll miss him dearly.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I had the privilege of working with the lawyer in Omaha who truly stood out for his remarkable qualities as a legal professional. Michael Kelly embodied the values of a commoner, an open-minded thinker, and a staunch advocate for equality. In a field often associated with being superior, Mr. Kelly was refreshingly down to earth and reliable. He treated every client, regardless of their background or circumstances, with the same level of respect and consideration. His approachable demeanor made clients feel heard and valued. Moreover, Michael Kelly's open-mindedness was truly exceptional. He had a remarkable ability to listen without judgment and to consider various perspectives when approaching legal challenges. This quality made him an outstanding problem solver and mediator. Above all, Mr. Kelly was a tireless champion of equality. He consistently fought for justice, ensuring that principles of fairness and equal treatment were upheld in every case he took on. In a legal profession that sometimes can lose sight of its core principles, Michael Kelly was a shining example of what it means to be a commoner, open-minded, and dedicated to equality. His contributions to the legal community in Omaha were invaluable, leaving a lasting legacy of fairness and compassion. At this time, I would like to extend my warmest sympathy to you and your family.
Thank you very much. Very kind words, Councilwoman.
Thank you. Ms. Milton.
Thanks. Well, Sean, I've known your dad for a long time. I think I've known him longer than you or Tom, but I've known y'all for a long time. And just want to say it did come as kind of quick in my opinion, and it was sad, and it really touched me because your dad was such a great father, grandfather. We saw him in here as a lawyer, and he was one of those lawyers that you had a hard time saying no to, you know.
That's good.
I think, yeah, even prosecutors, okay, what deal do you want, right? I mean, because he just had a way of connecting with people. But we saw him in here, and I also saw him, though, and my dad got to know him walking the golf course, watching their grandkids play golf together all these years. And so you could see Mike's true nature and where his true love was for his family. And I just think it's so great that you were able to practice law with your dad as well for all these years. And I do want to say I'm so sorry for you, for Tom, for your brother, and all the grandkids who he loved, and they loved him back. And at least they got to know him, and I think he got to impart kind of his love for life on them. And I think through them, through you and through them, he's going to kind of live on forever. But I was truly heartbroken when I found out last week. So
Yeah, thank you. I know he loved you guys' working relationship that went back decades. Thank you.
thanks, Sean.
Mr. Bagley.
Thanks, Mr. President. Sean, it's always good to see you. Last week at the wake, it was wonderful to offer condolences to you and your brothers and your mom being the tough wife raising 3 Irish sons, and Mike, a great husband. My brother and I had a nice chat with your mom, and she mentioned in the videos that you guys had, there was a picture of my dad with your dad, and I think it was Senator Eric Will, and that's going way back. And that reminded me of the times where, when I was a kid, I know we had a Kelly for Commissioner sign in our front yard on Webster Street. And the great life that your dad lived, and my favorite memory was being on the council and wet behind the ears, and I got to go have a beer with Mike Kelly. And he just educated me on simple things of government. And I learned that a couple months ago, one of the last licenses he did that I talked to him about was, he already had done the things. Danny, we reached out to the neighbors, we had a neighborhood meeting, we talked to the churches, and that makes the council comfortable because a seasoned veteran like your dad, number one, knows people, but he knew government, and he was good at it, and he knew that government can be good things for people if it's efficient and done in a timely manner. And I know Council Member Jerem, who was my predecessor and friend and mentor, he had a great relationship and the honor to work with your dad for all those years. And I had exchanged a little bit of text, and we're gonna go have a beer to toast your dad. And I remember St. Patrick's Days at Clancy's on how fun that was for my dad and my family, and just being able to experience that. So from one Irishman to another, we grieve for you, but I know when you bury a father and an Irish father, those great memories of him will be with you forever. And you being here today is a legacy that your dad left of you doing the same things that he did. So please give my best to your mom and your brothers, and we'll continue to keep you guys in our prayers.
Thank you
Sean.
very much. Thank you.
Mr. Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too, Sean, just wanted to take a minute to thank you for coming down this afternoon to be with us when it's not that easy. We are going to miss your dad. I mean, his fingerprints are all over Omaha, and we're going to miss his leadership, and we're going to miss his laughter and his smiling face down here, but most of all, we're going to miss his friendship. And we're thankful that you and your family were willing to share him with us for the time that you did, and we really do appreciate everything he did for the city of Omaha.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate it.
Mr. Harding.
Hey, Sean, to your mom, your brothers, and you know, we all wish you our deepest sympathies. I've heard a bit of a recurring theme here that I was going to touch on as well, too. I think Pete said it first when he said, you know, we thought he'd be around here forever, and you know, in reality, I think he will be here in part in two different ways, really, forever. One is the memories that we all have of him that were created both here in these chambers, but also with all his clients. But probably secondly, and more importantly, in my view, is through his teachings and the impacts that he's had on you and your brothers and his grandchildren. I think Tom talked a little bit about it during the funeral, about the legacy and from your grandfather that he imparted to Mike, and then what Mike has imparted to the next generation, the generation afterwards. So I know we will have at least those memories forever of your father, and thank you for sharing them with Omaha.
Thank you. And thank you to all of you and staff for all of your outpouring and support. It's meant a ton to our family, and they also share their regards and appreciation for all the support you guys have given our family over the last couple weeks. And no, he loved working with all you guys, so appreciate all the good times.
Madam Clerk.
Item 6, the oath of office for District 4 City Council Member Ron Hug.
We invite Mr. Hug and Chief Justice Hivikin to come probably in front of the diocese. Would that be best? Or wherever's comfortable for you guys by the microphone, I think probably works as well, to proceed.
Thank you very much. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Ron Hug,
I, Ron Hug,
do solemnly swear
that
I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska
and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska
against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely and without mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will faithfully and impartially perform the duties of the office of Omaha City Council Member.
perform the duties of the office of City Council member
according to the law and to the best of my ability.
according to the law and the best of my ability.
And I do further swear
And I do further swear
that I will not knowingly commit any act of treason
that I will not knowingly commit any act of treason
against the government of the United States or of this state
against the government of the United States or this state
during such time as I am in this position.
during such time as I am in this position.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, I guess I go to work now.
Mr. Chief Justice, thank you for coming down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Madam Clerk, item number 7, please.
Item 7, to consider a Class C liquor license for Pan Asian Terrace located at 1201 South 157th Street, Suite A1.
The public hearing and vote on number 7 is today. I believe we have the applicant by Zoom. Get you off mute here in a second. Okay, try that.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, good. My name is Max Lau. I'm a CPA and also a friend of the restaurant owner. And they requested me to help with this application process.
Okay. And your address too?
My address is 11685 Bedford Avenue, Suite 120, Omaha, Nebraska, 68134.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents that want to speak on number 7? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Second.
There's a motion to approve and a second. Roll call.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Items 8 through 11 can be considered together for Elkhorn Landing located south of 206th Street and Elkhorn Drive. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. Items 8 and 9, ordinances to rezone this property from MBD District to DR District and MBD District. Item 10, a resolution to approve the final plat. Item 11, a resolution to approve the subdivision agreement.
Public hearing and vote on items 8, 9, 10, and 11 are today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Items 12 and 13 can be considered together for property located northwest of Big Elk Parkway and Bedford Avenue. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. Item 12, an ordinance to rezone this property from MU District to R7 District. Item 13, an ordinance to amend the boundaries of the MCC overlay district to incorporate this property into that district.
Public hearing and vote on items 12 and 13 are today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Consent agenda. Any member of the City Council may cause any item placed on the consent agenda to be removed. Items removed from the consent agenda shall be taken up by the City Council immediately following the consent agenda in the order in which they were removed, unless otherwise provided by the City Council Rules of Order.
The public hearing on agenda items 14 through 16 were held on September 12th. I don't see any further lights. Is there a motion?
Move the approval.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Council members, item number 22 has been requested to be withdrawn by the department, and so it is withdrawn. Okay, I'll take a motion to withdraw it then.
Motion to withdraw number 22.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
And then items 23 through 27 have been requested to be removed from the consent agenda. So first, we'll take the public hearings on agenda items 17 through 21. So the public hearings on items 17 through 21 are today. If you wish to address the City Council regarding these items, please come to the microphone, indicate the agenda item number you wish to address, identify yourself by name, address, and who you represent, and if you are a proponent or an opponent. It's items 17 through 21. Seeing none, public hearings are closed. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Yes, Mr. President. I do have a few questions for item number 21. This item is to do a repair of a slope. And so at this time, I have a few questions. I'd like to know the rationale for repairing the slope. And it's critical, is it critical for safety or infrastructure integrity?
Bob Stubbe, Public Works. So this is in proximity to the City of Omaha, the Metropolitan Utilities District water treatment facility up north. Pershing Drive is on the east side of the treatment plant, and right next to that Pershing Drive is the slope that leads down to the Missouri River. So this is the location that is sloughing off, that needs to be evaluated, and so we've hired the consultant to actually go through and evaluate and do a design.
So this motion that we're doing today is for the evaluation?
Yeah, it's to hire the professional engineering services.
So it has not been determined that the work will be done at this point?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. No further lights. Is there a motion on 17 through 21?
Move to approve 17 through 21.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley.
Aye.
Harding. Hug. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 23, a resolution to approve the purchase of a used Groundsmaster mower.
Public hearing and vote on number 23 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the City Council. Matt Kalsevich, Parks and Recreation Director, here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Harding.
To approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
I had questions before we made a motion.
A motion can be made at any time, but the floor is yours.
Okay. So, Matt, I have a few questions. The purchase of the mower, where will the mower, where will it reside at?
Matt Kalsevich, Parks and Recreation Director. This mower is slotted to be at the Johnny Goodman Golf Course.
So, am I to conclude that if there is any other places in the Parks Departments where those services for that to be used, there won't be that opportunity for that mower to be used?
This mower in particular could be used anywhere within the golf operations, being purchased out of the enterprise fund for golf specific to that. It would be ideal that it would stay within that operation. Could be at any of the 8 courses, 9-hole or 18-hole that we manage. Certainly, we have flexibility in a scenario where we needed function of a mower at some other location in a park. We could go into this inventory, but that at this point is not something we see as necessary.
So we have other we have other golf course. Do they have mowers?
Every course is provided with their own equipment, but there is the ability to share within the structure of the golf operation. Like and similar equipment at each golf course can help us sustain in the instance that something is unavailable. In this case, this was deemed the most important place to purchase something new with revenues that we're producing out of the golf enterprise at this point.
Was there any environmental consideration taken into account when this was selected?
Regarding, I'm sorry, specific to?
The mower.
Environmental, meaning?
Meaning, you know, is it going to be electric more? Is it going to be, how will it impact the environment? Was any of those things looked at or considered before we selected this particular brand and model of equipment?
This is a product that we have the ability to care for in our current structure, so this is a similar item to what we maintained in the past. We did not assess any need to make a modification.
Were there other vendors or suppliers that were considered in terms of them having the opportunity for us to purchase the same equipment?
In this instance, this is a used product, so we had some flexibility to purchase this one directly when it became available. We're part of a network that's communicating with the golf industry here locally about when used items are made available from potentially other courses but still have life left. And as an enterprise fund, we're certainly trying to extend the quantity that we're able to use our funding for, having to make the revenue that we expend. And so we took advantage of this unique opportunity, having been told about this circumstance.
So would I be safe in saying no other opportunities were looked at?
This was the one presented to us, and we took advantage of it.
Okay, and are there any maintenance and service contract in place to ensure longevity of this equipment?
We have our own internal mechanics with the Park and Recreation Department, and should we have need to send this out, we have contacts and services contracts that exist across the community, or vendors that we use on a regular basis for this kind of special equipment to service that.
All right. How will your department manage and track the inventory of this equipment?
Of this product in particular? As soon as it starts being used, we'll start to log hours, and we'll use that to chart our regular maintenance. And then obviously we'll have annual regular inspections with either our internal mechanics or those that we work with outside of the city to give us perspective on the quality of the equipment. And as things come up where we need to address either annual maintenance or make significant changes with the product, we will do that either directly or with those other contractors I mentioned, or services that we know are in the community to help us with that.
Thank you. And how will the purchase of this equipment benefit the local community or its residents?
Our golf program right now is really growing at a rapid pace, and so we want to keep up the standard we've maintained at our golf courses through the enterprise operation to keep obviously the maintenance of the turf in particular that this mower will serve across the entire course there at Johnny Goodman at the highest level possible to continue to meet the needs of the community and those coming to us for the enjoyment of golf across our municipal system.
And are there any plans for community engagement or feedback?
In this case, this was a pretty standard operating piece, and we're addressing a concern directly out of our funding.
Will there be any reporting back to City Council on the utilization and performance of this equipment?
Typically, this product wouldn't require that. Should we run into challenges with our overall operation with golf, where the City Council would need to be engaged in some modifications, this might come up. But in this case, this is a standard operating procedure for us to mow grass at a golf course with a mower, and we're executing on that.
And lastly, this is just a point of information. You had mentioned that you had over 200 parks throughout the city of Omaha. Just out of curiosity, how do you determine the priority in which you respond to your workflow at each park?
We have 256 parks across the city. So this in particular is dealing with specifically the golf operation, which is enterprise isolated from any of the function of those other 256 parks. We have actually five parks districts, and we have a team within each of those districts that are managing somewhere between 40 and 60 parks. They set a priority based on, excuse me, safety concerns. We have a rhythmic rotation that allows us to tend to those different maintenance needs as they come up in a cycle depending on the time of year. We have staff allocated, and we're working to fill all those positions in each location, both full-time and part-time, to meet that need and that expectation during time of year. There's not an exact formula per se. Sometimes emergencies come up where we need to divert from that regular rotation, whether it be tree work or other issues, whether it have to be with a facility or a structure or a building in particular. Obviously, in any perfect scenario, we're getting to all of the parks in a regular rotation, and if certain emergencies and issues come up where we have to divert from that, we address that accordingly. Again, safety being one of the top priorities, and then that typical need, time of year, addressing certain things that come up.
So as a city council representative, is there any mechanism, any tool, any database where I can look at your rotation of where you're dedicating work at?
City council members are welcome, and I've invited, I think, every one of you to communicate with me at any time about questions or concerns having to do with your district. In this case, again, we have a standard operating procedure that we execute on, and if somebody would like to talk about that more specifically, I'm happy to highlight those details with you.
Okay. I did have a comment made by one of my colleagues here. What did my question have to do with anything? So let me be clear about my question and what my responsibility is as a city council person. Due diligence. We need to go over that from time to time, just so that people know what that means. Due diligence is decided by the party involved in the business transaction or decision-making process. It's a critical step to take into consideration and investigate relevant aspects of deal or a situation to make informed choices and manage risk effectively. The extent and scope of due diligence can vary depending on the nature of the transaction or decision. Regulatory bodies or industry standards may mandate specific due diligence procedures. The party with the most at stake or the most to gain in the transaction typically figures out the extent of when one conducts due diligence to ensure they are making well-informed choices. As a political official, ensuring due diligence is crucial to keep transparency, accountability, and public trust. The steps below that I'm about to describe is just one viewpoint to ensure due diligence. Establish clear procedures. Develop standard procedures for decision-making, procurement, and policy formulation. Training and resources. Ask for opinions from a variety of industry leaders to include legal and financial experts who ensure decisions are sound. Oversight and review. Implement oversight mechanisms such as audits, reviews, and third-party assessments to verify that due diligence is conducted effectively. Public engagement. Encourage public participation and input in relevant process to supply more checks and balances. Transparency. Publish information related to due diligent processes and outcomes to keep the public informed. What happens when we do this, and why is it vital? It mitigates risk, fosters trust. Accountability is done. Efficient resource allocation is also a value. In summary, as a politician, official, ensuring due diligence is not only a matter of governance, but also a means to keep public confidence and make informed, responsible decisions that help the community. With that being said, I would expect and appreciate when I am asking questions that sidebar conversations and snide remarks are kept to a level within the individual. It's not necessary to make all of those kinds of references while I'm asking questions. Please be respectful of my position that I hold. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Melton, you're recognized.
Thanks, I just want to clarify and tell you how much I appreciate the fact that Johnny Goodman Golf Course needed a mower, and you're actually purchasing a used mower, and that's the agenda item here today. So I appreciate that fiscal responsibility, and it's not with the taxpayer dollars, it's coming out of the enterprise fund, which
Correct.
actually it's not taxpayers paying for this used mower. It's actually the revenues that are generated from all the people that love going to Johnny Goodman, because I have to say, it's one of my favorite courses, and I would say one of the best courses in Omaha, and the city runs it. So they do a great job out there at Johnny Goodman.
Thank you for recognizing that. We do take great pride in the fact that we've been able to turn around the golf enterprise operation to be making money to reinvest in it just the way we have. Definitely want to thank Director Stephen Curtis and his team from finance who really helped us put this on the right track, and our golf team that's been reviewing fees and assessing things to make sure that we have this kind of stability long-term in our golf program. So thank you for recognizing.
No, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 24, a resolution to approve the purchase of a Chevy Silverado.
Public hearing and vote on number 24 is today. Proponents, please.
Mr. President, members of the City Council, Matt Kalsovich, Parks and Recreation Director, here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents?
Luis Jimenez, 2709 Dewey Avenue. I am opposed to the purchase of a vehicle because actually Jennifer Taylor confused me when I was at pre-council. And she said, well, we're present, we're the law department, and anytime that the city makes a purchase, we look at the environmental issue. So I don't know if that was for a vehicle that the city is purchasing or another item. A lot of things just kind of roll through during pre-meeting, but I was hopeful that she was reflecting that onto other items, that anytime that the city is purchasing or making a purchase, that there's an environmental assessment by city legal. So I don't know if that's happening.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Any other opponents to number 24?
Yes, sir. Donnie R. Johnson, the Johnson and Question Foundation, and North Omaha Concerned Citizen Foundation. To reflect upon the City of Omaha Park and Recreation, why we asked Ms. Johnson to go into details with this gentleman here. We're under understanding that you're going to sell us Benson golf clubs so we can go into the process of
this is
developing
about
that.
Purchase of a vehicle. You have to keep it to the topic.
Yes, we're going to block that. That's why we asked Ms. Johnson to make sure that you, as Benson District, that land should be turned over to North Omaha.
You're off topic. And
Oh, that's not the same
the golf
program?
course is not for sale. You're out of order, please.
Park and Recreation, we will.
Any other opponents to number 24? See none, public hearings closed. Mr. Harding, you're recognized.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Ms. Johnson, I believe your light's on, correct?
That is correct.
Yes.
Matt, I have similar questions as the other equipment that we had.
Matt Kalsovich, Parks and Recreation Director.
Looking for a reason for the purchase of the truck?
This is also a product for Johnny Goodman, and again, one of the oldest trucks in our fleet as far as the golf operation is concerned, so deemed right, with an opportunity to make a replacement here, again, using funds from the enterprise program defined for golf, and again, the function of our operation being the focus here.
How does this align with your department's operational needs?
Again, trying to maintain all that we do at each golf course. In this case, Johnny Goodman, the busiest of our 8 total courses, needing this function. Again, use on the property, if there is the need to go back and forth between locations to address the environmental concern, We are a gas-powered operation. Infrastructure-wise, we've not made any transition, and it's been cost prohibitive. I mentioned here in council before the challenges of transitioning to an electric fleet as far as some of the specific park and recreation operations are concerned. So again, a good value and a good use of the resources and revenue that we have to reinvest in our golf program.
Okay, and did we take into account other opportunities other than the one that you selected in terms of the purchase?
In this case, we're pretty limited as far as the type of truck and the kind of equipment we would need specific to the golf operation. So again, opportunity presenting itself with some limited inventory, and this fitting the need or meeting the objective as far as upgrading to a new truck for that course's service needs are concerned.
And how does the community benefit from this purchase?
The continued focus on our golf program, again, city-provided, municipal-provided golf opportunity. This is part of the structure that we have in place to ensure that the course is in the best condition possible and we're meeting the needs and expectations of those seeking us for their golf opportunity.
And how will we monitor and maintain the maintenance, if any, on this?
The truck, similar to a mower, as regular annual maintenance is needed based on the quantity of use that will be tended to either internally by ourselves. A truck may escalate to the level of including the fleet services department within the city. And then if and when there's ever a need of a larger scale, we would work again with our fleet services department or contract that out directly. Certainly, we believe a new vehicle like this will sustain us for quite a long time.
And does this truck meet the safety standards and regulation that the city requires?
Yes, it does.
Are there any systems in place for asset management and tracking?
As far as inventory of equipment is concerned, absolutely. We work closely with our fleet services department. Internally, we maintain that list with our internal mechanics and our operations team to talk about prioritizing things based on age, frequency of use, system upgrades, things that would help us better serve our program on this day. In some instances, we're dealing with equipment that's 15 or 20 years old, and we're trying to create a new opportunity or new existence with upgraded equipment, and certainly these items here, and this one in particular, fit that criteria.
Thank you. And have you determined a vehicle replacement? Has that been scheduled or set aside to replace this, should it need to be replaced?
This vehicle in particular? Typically, our vehicles are on a time frame similar to what community vehicle replacement would be. Sometimes it's about, again, how much is it used or how much is it something that's used in an intense or unique way. It's hard to chart that out on the day that we receive it about when we might need to replace it. Some of that is circumstantial. Typically, these are 10, 15, 20-year products, and with the golf program in particular, we're certainly trying to have something be equipment we sustain for the longest time possible, again, looking at the sensitivity of making the money that we spend and reinvest in the program to the level that helps us keep it at the expectation of the community.
All right, speaking of community, how did we get this information out to the community about this?
Standard operating for our golf program to have truck access, so the purchase was very much about maintaining our regular service.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hug.
Good afternoon. Is this a new unit or a used unit?
This one is a new unit.
Just leftover stock?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
yes, had challenges finding products, so certainly taking advantage of one we saw was available.
Okay, thank you. No further lights. There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 25, a resolution to approve the purchase of an aeration machine.
Public hearing and vote on number 25 is today. Proponents, please.
Mr. President, members of the City Council, Matt Kalsovich, Parks and Recreation Director, here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Mr. Harding.
Approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. No further lights. Roll call.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 26, a resolution to approve the mayor's reappointment to the Steam Fitters and Pipe Fitters Board of Examiners.
Public hearing and vote on number 26 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Harding, you're recognized.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. This question is for the applicant. Would that be Jason Eckmeyer? Is he on Zoom or is he present?
I think he's working.
Was that an answer? He's working?
I believe so. He is a steam fitter, pipe fitter, I assume, on a Tuesdays probably at work.
Is that how we normally do things, assume?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a great answer. So is there anyone here out of the mayor's office, the Human Rights Department, that can answer some questions so that I can do due diligence? Apparently no one else is concerned about due diligence here.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the City Council, Thomas Warren, Mayor's Office.
Yes. Sorry to put you on the spot here. I'm sure you're not able to answer this question to help me determine what contribution Eric can provide to communities in which I serve. But I'm going to ask the question anyway, and I know the answer to it, but let me go ahead and do that for the matter of the record. Please describe a time when you encountered a disagreement or conflict within a diverse group. How did you approach the situation? And what steps did you take to resolve the conflict while ensuring inclusivity and understanding among team members?
As a representative of the Mayor's Office, we are presenting the nomination of Mr. Eichmeyer to be reappointed to the Steam Fitters and Pipe Fitters Board of Examiners. You have in the packet his resume. We feel that he is eminently qualified for the position, and I'm here to answer any other questions you may have, because obviously I'm not Mr. Eichmeyer.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I'm not able to make a sound decision based on this information that I was provided with as City Council. Again, I would reiterate, as I've said time and time again, we are in a city where we have a diverse group of people that we serve in our community. And when we have opportunities to look at others for opportunities to fill some of these committee appointments, that's our opportunity to see if that person who is being recommended has ever had any background in working with a diverse group of people. I'm not able to determine that based upon the resume and based upon the limited information that I received in the packet. So unfortunately, I will not be able to vote on this in an affirmative. It will be no.
Thank you. Mr. Bagley, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. Chief, I don't have any questions for you, thank you. I just had more comments. I did reach out, I didn't talk to Mr. Eckmeyer, but I spoke to members of Steam Fitters and Plumbers Local 464 to see if there was any issues they had with Mr. Eichmeyer, if I'm saying his name right. And they said they got a good working relationship with him. And I know the Omaha Federation of Labor supports his appointment. And the Fitters 464 have their heats on where they go out in the community and check furnaces in low-income neighborhoods that everybody's welcome to come to. But I know Mr. Eckmeyer got good reviews, and after I reviewed his documentation here, I'm glad to support his reappointment. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. No further lights. Roll call.
Melton. Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-1. Item 27, a resolution to approve the mayor's appointment to the Park and Recreation Board.
Public hearing and vote on number 27 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon. Erin Porterfield, 1009 North 50th Avenue, here to answer questions.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Has to be to the appointment, right, Donnie?
Yes, sir. I was trying to figure this out while I was coming down here. What Ms. Johnson was saying, I was listening to her back there saying, we just wanted someone who would make sure when you sell Benson, you tell us first. That's all we were working on.
That's not what we're talking about.
You're not going to be selling Benson Golf Course? Okay.
You're out of order. Any other opponents to number 27? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Mr. Harding, you're recognized.
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President.
Did you intend to speak?
Yes.
Go ahead. Ms. Melton.
Thank you. Aaron, I just wanted to thank you for your continued efforts. You're always doing things that are bettering our community, and this is a volunteer job that I know you're doing. All of these appointments are volunteer, and so you're just lending more of your time to our city, and I just wanted to take the time to say thank you for all that you do for the citizens of Omaha. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Erin, if you don't mind. Thank you for coming. I appreciate that. Again, I'm going to reiterate the importance of what we're doing here. I don't say anything negative or have no concern about what your contributions are in our community. I've been at your location there on Ames. Don't have any concerns about that whatsoever. You as an individual have no concerns there. But I would be remiss if I did not ask questions that would give us and strengthen us here as City Council, as a city, to look at opportunities when we have committees and we can add more value to that committee as it relates to having voices from all different backgrounds at the table. There's all kinds of conversations all over the world and back, especially when we had the rioting here after George Floyd. The city of Omaha made a commitment to look at its diversity, equity, and inclusion, its methods, and shaping it up. So again, my position as the city council representative for an area that is of underserved communities, I am obligated to ask these questions. Other communities don't have that situation, so please understand my position in all of this. Diversity encompasses not only differences in race and ethnicity, but also factors such as gender, age, religion, and more. Can you share an experience where you demonstrated sensitivity and adaptability when working with colleagues from various backgrounds to create an inclusive and cohesive work environment?
I've had so many experiences of doing just that. I'm struck with figuring out one. My staff, we have started with Caucasian staff only when I began, and then now it's half minority, half majority. I serve as the Equal Opportunity Officer for Heartland Workforce Solutions, and through that role was able to follow a complaint for a diverse individual, such that it was the first in the nation that we had taken an educational training provider off the list due to discrimination. I was shocked that that was the first time, but I was honored to have the opportunity to follow up on that. Our location at Ames, our public that we serve, and also the 24th Street location that will come soon, are both serving people who are minority in areas of higher poverty, higher unemployment, and underemployment, discrimination. So it's really important for us to be learning and staffing so that we are providing service, people who look like them to serve. It is also my role to make sure that we've got equal opportunity, education, etc. So as a role on this committee, board, one of the first things that I asked through my interview process was, what's the diversity of the board, the advisory? And so that was something that I was concerned about, and I'll continue to be forward thinking about that as I do during my day job. One of the things that's super important is to make sure that everybody has equal opportunity to voice concern, that the community is taken into consideration, and impact is taken into consideration for those decisions. I hope that answers your question.
It does, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to come and share that information, not only with me, but also those that are here in the room and those that are online listening. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I think one other thing that I have to offer is that my diversity is as a gay person, and also as my family being diverse with an Indian partner. So there are a variety of things that I can bring to bear, not only my countless activities at all of the parks all the time, especially pickleball. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bagley.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. President. Aaron, good afternoon. You don't have to, you're fine. You can go sit down and relax. Thank you for being here today. My comments were, in looking over your resume, it's an impeccable one. Going back to, I don't want to out you too much on when you went to college and school, but it's a wonderful resume. And as Executive Director of the Heartland Workforce Solutions, one of the bullet points you had in your current position is you led strategic initiatives with minority populations to improve services to people who are immigrants, refugees, African American, Latino, and underserved areas. And it's delightful for me when I usually try to do this either on Thursday or Sunday to read the resumes. Number one, to see if you live in my district. You're in Fesserson, so I didn't call you, but I was impressed with your resume. And thank you, number one, for stepping up to serve in this capacity. It's hard to get people to want to do leadership positions, but with your great background as a social worker and somebody that has ties in the communities, I know you're going to be great, and I'm really happy to support you, and thanks again for putting your name in to serve in this capacity. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you. No further lights. There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thanks, Eric.
Item 28, an ordinance to acquire private property for the Signal Infrastructure Phase E1 project.
Public hearing on number 28 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 29, an ordinance to approve an amendment to a grant award contract with the Nebraska Department of Natural Resources for the Combined Sewer Overflow Program.
Public hearing on number 29 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 30, an ordinance to approve the MH Landing Lot 1 Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Agreement.
Public hearing on number 30 is today. Proponents, please.
Oh yeah, good afternoon, Don Seaton, Omaha City Planning, here for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Other proponents.
Thank you, Mr. President. Brent Beller, 1140 Western Road, on behalf of the applicant. Healthy discussion last time. This is the final phase of the Cocoa Keys redevelopment, so here for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents?
Larry Store, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha. 68132. I fail to understand how that area of town has been blighted or severely blighted. Therefore, I'm against getting tax increment financing for it. Also, I drove by there the other day and there's a very nice new dental building there. I guess if I could build a new building and start a business, I'd apply for TIF also. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opponents to number 30? Seeing none, public hearing is closed.
Item 31, an ordinance to approve the Boho Flats Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Agreement.
Public hearing on number 31 is today. Proponents, please.
Yes, good afternoon again. Don Seaton, Omaha City Planning Department, and I'm here for any questions you may have.
Any other proponents today?
Thank you, Mr. President. Brent Beller, 1140 West Center Road. With me today is Aaron and Colin with Sage Capital, the project developers. Again, healthy discussion last time. Excited to get going down in Bohemia.
Thank you. Other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Thank you.
Item 32, an ordinance to amend Section 23-182 of the Omaha Municipal Code to change shift differential pay for certain employees within SIMTech. Personnel Board recommends approval.
Public hearing on number 32 is today. Proponents, please.
Jared Anderson, 6214 South 103rd Street. I'm also the SEMTEC secretary. So we just wanted to make sure that we said thank you to the city for their help working on this. And we are definitely a proponent of it.
Great, thank you. Other proponents?
Deb Sander, City Human Resources, here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any additional proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Thank you.
Item 33, an ordinance to accept the invoice from Cortico, Inc. for a one-year extension of the Cortico Shield Law Enforcement Wellness App.
Public hearing on number 33 is today. Proponents, please. It's got to be to the wellness app, right, Donnie?
You know, Mr. Fredson, I was thinking of something. The Notre Dame sisters who have spent time
No,
with harder.
it's got to be to the
easier than
wellness
you.
app if you're going to speak to this
I was trying to
program.
figure out what Notre Dame Academy sisters spent time with me, and they wasn't as hard as you on these issues. I like studying with the Notre Dame Academy ladies. Sisters of Notre Dame Academy. Anyway, sir, back to number 33. Donnie Johnson, the Johnson and Question Foundation, and North Omaha Concerned Citizen Foundation. I noticed on this program on number 33, is there any way possible when the police bring in their report of this here, which is 1 year of the survey of what they're going to build a new police station and a fire station, can you also in February, as she said last week, those grants, because this is in 24, so that money that's coming in 24, is it 23, 24, that money's coming forward? Because we want to apply in February or December for the budget city, the new mayor's budget, to attach the 10 council that we're going to take over those two police and the fire station with. So can we go with that same process as attaching funding with this funding so that my group can get funding to do the police consulates, the council is going to take over those police stations and the fire station. Because that report is coming back
Donnie,
in 1 year, right?
This is a wellness app for the police department. You gotta
Yeah,
keep it to
it's
that
connected to this $39,000 here. So I'm asking, we're looking for, do we need to talk to Mr. Tommy Warren for the money that's going to be on the budget for 24 this year or next year?
This is not about the budget, but yes, you can talk to the mayor's office about the budget.
For this 30, it says 23 to 23, 22.
This is a wellness app and a contract to do that. So stick to that topic or else
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
off topic.
Well, no, October 23rd to October 24th.
All right, Donnie, you're off
All right,
topic.
well, never mind. That's something's writing with this writing. It's got
All right. Any other proponents to number 33? If not, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Item 34, an ordinance to establish a Class A flammable liquids storage district located at 9100 John J. Pershing Drive.
Public hearing on number 34 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Item 35, an ordinance to establish a Class B flammable liquids storage district located at 4829 South 114th Street.
Public hearing on number 35 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Item 36, an ordinance to approve a second amendment to the lease agreement with 1401 Jones LLC located at 1401 Jones Street regarding maintenance and repairs.
Public hearing on number 36 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 58, a resolution to approve the cooperative agreement award with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for reimbursement for processing fair housing discrimination complaints.
Public hearing and vote on number 58 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon, President and council members. Caitlin DeHelius, Director of Human Rights and Relations Department. This is our HUD funding for the work that we'll do from October 1st of this year through September 30th of next year.
Okay, thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Move the approval.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Non-action items, items 37 through 56, do not require public hearing or city council consideration at this meeting, but will be placed on a future agenda for public hearing and/or vote. The reason for non-action item is noted after the item on the agenda, as well as the date the item is expected to appear on the agenda for consideration.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Roll call.
Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Meeting is adjourned at 3:11.